Okay, we're going to start looking at markets in a little bit different way now than we have been. Okay, we've been looking at markets. We've figured out what consumer surplus was. We figured out what consumer surplus and producer was, and that they create as total welfare. So we can look up here, and this is just, we'll call it graph A, and we have our demand curve and our supply curve, and you know that this entire area here creates the surplus for producers, right? The welfare for producers, because the price that the market is giving them is actually higher than the price that many of them would have been willing to take. So they're coming out ahead. And just like on the demand side, right? This is the consumer surplus, that there are people that would be willing to pay more. Their utility's higher than the price. They're coming out ahead. We call that consumer surplus. So this entire area here, right? Consumer surplus, producer surplus, we're saying total welfare, okay? That's for that one market. But there are other ways to look at this that economists have begun to consider the idea of efficiency in different terms. And when we lose some of that efficiency for a bunch of different reasons, we come into what we call market failure. And we have market failure when a market is experiencing what we call dead weight loss. Okay, dead weight loss. Sometimes we call it just dead weight loss, DWL for dead weight loss. When a market is experiencing dead weight loss, what that means is the social or economic loss of the welfare because markets are inefficient. And markets can gain and lose efficiency for a bunch of reasons. Markets lose efficiency sometimes for reasons that are private reasons. You know, businesses decided to do something that loses efficiency for the entire market, particularly if it's a more monopolistic market. Sometimes the government can make decisions that can lead to market efficiencies. So market inefficiencies, the government can lead to stuff that can create inefficiencies. But inefficiencies can be created for a bunch of reasons. So let's look at this graph a little bit differently, okay? We still have our demand and our supply curve, right? We still have our price and our quantity equilibrium, but let's look at it a little bit differently now. Instead of saying that this is just a supply curve, we're also going to be looking at this. MSC stands for marginal social cost, okay? The marginal social cost. It's the cost to society for producing this good. Every good has a byproduct to society from its production. Some of those things cost us, right? Even good things, it costs society to produce that, right? Right? It costs, parks are really great, right? Parks are good for society. It's a place for people to go and families to go and, have recreation and fun and family time and get exercise. It's great, right? Be outside, trees, breathing, it's wonderful. But when you create this, right, you've got construction problems, you've got, some pollution that goes into the building of it, you've got, zoning it, all these problems. It still creates some issues, right? So there is a social cost to doing things, and there's a social benefit to doing things, right? So there's a marginal social cost and there's a marginal social benefit, okay? So every market creates some social cost and every market creates some social benefit. And for us to experience efficiency, that is to say, to not have market failure, or another way to say is to not have dead weight loss, we want to operate as such where marginal social cost equals marginal social benefit. Okay, sorry, that's in pink. I lost my other markers. So if marginal social cost equals marginal social benefit, as it does right here, then we are at a place that we call, and economists call, socially optimal. So this would be the market's socially optimal price, and this would be this market's socially optimal quantity. Okay? So the next video I'm going to show you what happens when we have market failure and what that looks like and what dead weight loss looks like in graphs like this. And then I'm going to show you one where it looks like when the government comes in and creates it with surpluses and shortages, price ceilings and price floors. But right now, things are good. We are producing where marginal social benefit equals marginal social cost, which is exactly what's happening here. And we are getting a maximization of consumer surplus, and we're maximizing producer surplus. I'm not sure if maximization is a word. So this is where we want to be. Again, another word for this we're going to talk about when we get to our products, our product market unit. I'm so stupid. Is allocatively efficient, that the markets are allocating all of their resources well. But socially optimal and allocatively efficient are interchangeable, right? They're analogous. So we're going to use this as socially optimal. So things are good right here, all right? And then the next one, we're going to show you what happens when things aren't good, and then what can happen as a result of that.